Hi, welcome to the LPC Forum for Fellows, the Fellows Forum for 2021. I am AJ Boston. I am a fellow with the LPC for 2019-2021. I'm a scholarly communication librarian here at Murray State University, and there is my Twitter account. And today I'm glad to be joining with you all, and I'm going to try something a little bit different. Since this is a digital online conference and we can't be together, I thought I would try to do at least my slides in a kind of hands-on analog sort of way. So this is either going to be like very cool and rule and not be clunky or awkward, or it will. So we'll see how it goes. So anyway, thank you for being here today. So I first want to say thank you to the Library Publishing Coalition for giving me this opportunity to be a fellow for these past 2 years. It's honestly been a really great opportunity. I've learned a lot. I've networked a lot. It's been terrific. And I'd like to specifically thank the Educopia staff. I would like to thank the LPC board, past and present. Shout out to my library dean who signed my original recommendation letter. I want to say thank you to the forum committee that I served alongside with this year and last year. I want to say a shout out to my previous fellows, Charlotte Rowe and Reggie Raju, and hello to my fellow, Talia Anderson. And finally, I want to say thank you and hello and greetings and all that to the LPC community. All right. Speaking of the fellowship, later this year, I believe they'll be opening up the applications once again for new fellows. So I would recommend if you are considering this, go ahead and send this in. It's been a great opportunity for me. I've had access to and exposure to the community. I've been able to volunteer on the forum committee, which has been great. And one of the key benefits for me was being assigned a mentor. So my LPC mentor was Kevin Hawkins at the University of North Texas. Kevin has met with me about once a month for the past 2 years. At our initial meetings, he said, what do you want to get out of this? And I said, I'm kind of early in my career. I need to get some stuff written, and I need an objective third person to help me through some of this stuff. So past 2 years, Kevin has been a great resource, just generally and in that very specific way. So speaking of writings, that's going to be the subject of today's presentation. I'm going to tell you about 3 different writing projects I've worked on during my time as a fellow, which Kevin has been a reader on and provided great feedback on. So today, we're going to talk about thinking politically about scholarly infrastructure, PyPlate, proposing a peer review overlay service, visual, and how about this for a big deal? Read and let read. How's this going so far? Is this working for you? All right, so let's talk about thinking politically. This is something I published on the LPC blog in November of 2020, and this is scheduled to be published in June of this year in ACRL News. So there is the link at the bottom if you'd like to read the blog version. So in thinking politically, I had written this during the lead up to the 2020 US presidential election. So I was kind of in a mood when I wrote this. And so I guess I was thinking about politics and I was thinking about scholarly infrastructure in sort of similar ways. And so I was thinking about prospects for the upcoming year and the prospect of minor improvements versus major devolutions. So as an example of that, I can think about the continued use of bpress here at my university, post Elsevier, which still expands green open access. We subscribe to bpress prior to Elsevier. It was a good product. Elsevier bought it up. It's still a pretty good product. It's just that the entire like spirit and attitude you take toward it is just a little bit different now, a lot of it different. So this got me thinking, how can libraries support the infrastructure we like, lest they go under or get gobbled up? So this is the bad part about doing your slides on paper is I have to, for lengthy bits of text that I have like pre-scripted, I had to print it out on the back. So that's a little behind the curtains for you. So regular institutional subscriptions, they're not good enough. We subscribed to Digital Commons before they were acquired. They got acquired. So this got me thinking about things like the Medical Innovation Prize Fund, and that was an act that Bernie Sanders proposed in 2011 and 2017. And one of the major outcomes from these bills, had they passed, would have been the creation of a prize fund. And that would have amounted to 0.55% of GDP, which in 2010 was 80 billion. And with that prize of money, that pool of money, they would have funded cash prizes paid out to developers of select healthcare treatments that choose to openly share access to related knowledge, data, and technology while denying themselves the exclusive right to manufacture, distribute, sell, or use a drug, a biological product, or a medication manufacturing process. And all of that would have been really cool to have in place here in 2021. Yes. So what I was suggesting is we find a way to do versions of that for scholarly infrastructure to incentivize developers who, need to feed themselves, developers of our favorite new research tools to release their code as open source, and also offer similar prizes on an annual basis to individuals, including the original developers who release substantially updated versions, maintenance, and user supports. David Lewis, of course, had proposed a model on which every academic library would commit 2.5% of its total budget to, I like this side better. They would commit 2.5% of its total budget to support the common infrastructure needed to support the common infrastructure needed to create the open scholarly comms. Since then, Invest in Open Infrastructure has taken the lead in organizing such an effort. And for me in 2021, considering the financial difficulties that academic librarians face, I want to put a pin in the idea of asking for more from them, from their budgets. And I wanted to present a challenge to major commercial academic publishers, which I hope other librarians would join me in, which is to say, I challenge you, big publishers with 30% profit margins, I challenge you to devote 2.5% of your annual profit margin to fund open source scholar-led infrastructures. All right, moving on. Next, 2 of 3, 2 more to go. We're going to talk about pie plates. This is something I wrote over winter break, and I posted to Zenodo in December, speaking of open infrastructure. I want to say thanks to Kevin Hawkins for being an early reader on this project. Kevin has agreed to come on as a second author to help me do some revisions. I need an objective brain to do that. And many thanks as well to Jerry Odell and Lauren Collister for being early readers during their winter breaks and for their valuable comments. I also want to say thanks to Tom Narak of Earth Archive for taking this project seriously. All right, this is another scripted one. So this is a proposal for a concept called pie plate. And the idea of pie plate would be a digital icon that displays the current state of peer review facets that have been assessed on a research paper. So the peer-reviewed stamp often serves as a crude quality filter, offering only the binary options of peer-reviewed and not peer-reviewed. Pie plate would be different. It would give readers more peer-review based options for understanding the merits of a paper, regardless of where or how or if a paper was published. PyPlate enables reviewers to contribute an assessment on any single facet, which may be especially useful when a reviewer's skill set can be applied toward one area of a paper, but not to others. So I was thinking here about someone like biologist Elizabeth Vick, and she's one of these super spotters who detects like fraud in biology images. Like I don't know, she can like say, I guess she has like a mental library of images, and she's like able to say like, these are duplications of previous things. So I think she would be like a great person to do peer review. She already does like post review on Twitter. But if you could find more people like that and give them a system in which they can just focus on that one aspect of review, and I don't know, maybe not have to worry about the other aspects of peer review, just worry about this one thing that you're an expert at. So there are two major areas of work that I think that are needed to bring this project together. And they are decoupling peer review into a standardized taxonomy of checks or facets, and two, building a system to collect and display appropriate groupings of these facets per paper. So like I said, two preprints of this paper are currently available at Zenodo. It's undergoing revision right now at a journal. The paper includes a summary of need, key precedents, description of the basic design and functionality of PyPlate, incentives for users, such as citing peer reviewers, and yeah. So I stuck this project kind of in the middle of the other two. I haven't thought about it much since January, but I'm really excited to talk about my third and final project, which I just finished a draft on. So let's move on to this one. I think this will be the one that gets the most chatter. This is called Read and Let Read, and this is currently under revision right now. Once again, thanks to Kevin Hawkins, who is an early reader. So Read and Let Read, the question I want you to keep in mind is, how does a big institution with a lot of bargaining power thread the needle that allows them to work with one of the big 5 publishers in order to get what their home users need, while expanding access to the rest of the world and not causing too much unintended or unacceptable harm in any of those directions? All right, let's get into it. So as context, I wrote this maybe in the week right after the news about UC and Elsevier, their 2021 deal, thinking about transformative agreements. So on March 25th, 2021, Elsevier had announced their 17th transformative agreement. So it feels like there's some urgency around this topic. Pay-to-publish models are, as Ashley Jester said in a commentary, they're good for groups who sign them, but they're bad for the overall system. They're, as Dave Gamondi said, they're not a sign of progress. They're, in fact, counter-revolutionary models. And as Chris Borg noted, they lead to a system where the work of scholars from less privileged institutions or less well-funded disciplines end up left out. So another thing about not doing this on a computer is I don't have like the animations where I can make each line pop up. So let's try it. Can I do? No, that's too clunky. Let's move on. Okay, so let's propose. Oh, I know what I can do. I can do this. Let's propose read and let read deals. So read and let read deals, they have 3 basic points, and I'll go over these in order. The first is read. Institutions pay a base amount. Let me back up. The read and let read deal, it's my proposal to say like, okay, we're not going to do big deal bundles. We don't like transformative deals. We do maybe have to work with Elsevier sometimes. So how can we do this if we're someone like UC? So read and let read. Read, institutions pay a base amount for next year based on total article download count during the prior year. So the number of uses that your users used last year, number of times they downloaded something, you're going to prepay on that access for the next year. Let read. Institutions pay the base amount times 2, and that's going to cover the above estimated institutional usage for the next year, plus any additional uses made during the next year that go above that estimate. And finally, it's going to pay for every unclaimed use is available to anyone online. So yeah, let's get into that. But first, new article valuation. This is maybe the most important part of this. Any full text article download is now going to cost 50 cents. So how did I get to that valuation? And so it wasn't really scientific. I was thinking about iTunes and how they used to have a song for $1 or 99 cents. Thinking about Spotify, I get buffet streaming for $9.99 a month. When I wrote this, I had just watched Justice League, the new Zack Snyder thing on HBO Max. My HBO Max subscription cost $15 a month. The recut of Justice League had a combined budget of $370 million. So yeah, if those things can cost, if 370 million budget for one movie and I get to watch it, part of my $15 package, Spotify is $10. You know, articles, they need to be like 50 cents. So to make this more concrete, let's think about how a read and let read deal would work specifically at UC. So at UC, they have estimated 11 million downloads annually. That's per Elsevier's count, versus 500,000 downloads, which is what UC counts, estimates downloads of Elsevier articles to be. So at 11 million, let's just go with Elsevier's estimate for the sake of argument. Let's say there's 11 million downloads at a valuation of 50 cents. So you would be paying $5.5 million as a base amount for your institution to read. Take that base amount times 2 to let read. So 5.5 million times 2 is 11 million. So the effect of a read and let read deal would be you get 11 million annual downloads for UC users, and you're getting 11 million annual downloads that you give to the public to use, approximately. That's an $11 million annual contract between UC and Elsevier. Next, let's do a comparison of outcomes between the current UC and Elsevier deal in 2021 versus had they done a read and let read deal. So in a read and let read deal, that gets you an $11 million deal and 0 articles go open access. And 5.5 million is spent on users outside of the UC system. So that sounds like a weird thing to propose. But with the 2021 deal, they get 10.7 million, which is cheaper than 11 million. And it flips UC authored articles to OA, which is good for them. The average UC article processing charge discounted in Rick Anderson's estimation was going to be $2,449. So if you do an apples to, I guess that'd be apples to apples. If you do an apples to apples comparison on what you would get with that 5.5 million that you would ordinarily in a read and let read deal, if you spent $5.5 million, you would give 11 million downloads outside of UC. That same $5.5 million spent on UC APCs would flip 2,245 articles. So the effect, in my estimation, for the research, for the global research community, In the current UC and Elsevier deal, each year you get 2,245 just-in-case articles by UC authors. In a read and let read deal, annually you would provide 11 million just-in-time articles on any article, including UC authored ones. So that's the gist of that. So today we talked about 3 writing articles, writing pieces, projects I worked on as an LPC fellow, thanks to Kevin Hawkins, including Thinking Politically, Pie Plate, Read and Let Read. My name is AJ Boston. There's my contact information if you have further questions, or I'll stick around for the Q&A. So thank you all very much again. Thank you, LPC. Thank you, LPC forum attendees, and hope you all have a wonderful week.